So a lot of us have that final bit of body fat that just won't seem to go anywhere no matter what we try. And if you haven't already listened to my episode on the truth about stubborn body fat, I would highly recommend listening to that first before we go into today's episode. And the topic today is how we genuinely go at that final bit of body fat. I don't believe we're all destined to be super shredded or lean, and I can go through the advantages and disadvantages of that in another episode. However, I do think that we can do some work on those more frustrating points. And at the end of the day, some people might say you just have to learn to accept your body, etc., etc. And to a degree, I agree with that. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people out there who do want to work on these certain things. And I want to make sure that they are served just as much as the people who are ready to accept the ways that their bodies are. So with that being said, I think that there are two keys when it comes to dropping that final bit of body fat, and I'm going to go through them today. The first one, and you'd be amazed by how simple this is being prepared to be in a calorie deficit for a long time, and also with a caveat of potentially being prepared to lose some muscle along the way. Realistically, when a lot of people ask me, what was the difference between you getting to the shape that you got to when you went on the beach or you did a photo shoot versus getting into the shape that it took you to step on stage, there is no real difference apart from time. Fundamentally, I didn't do anything different. I might have done a little bit more cardio, I might have dropped my calories lower, but I didn't do anything magical. It still came down to expending more calories and consuming less. And that's ultimately what fat loss comes down to. But the difference between those who get lean and those who get shredded, just to use those two terms as an easy distinction between each other, is that the person who got shredded spent longer doing those things and maybe did a little bit more of those things. They might have lowered their calories, or they might have increased their cardio or expenditure a little bit more than someone else. But there's realistically no difference between the things that you have to do in order to get there. Fundamentally, there's absolutely no difference. So the first aspect of this is time, and therefore if you are someone who is really working on that stubborn area of body fat, you might just have to keep dieting and keep dieting and keep dieting. And something I touched on in the episode about the truth about stubborn body fat, the trouble that comes in is that then the fat also goes from other areas which you don't really want it to go from. For example, your face, and then people will say that you start to look a little bit gaunt, you look unwell, etc. And I've spoken at length about other people's comments on other people's bodies, and we won't go there today. However, that's what usually stops most people. And the reality is that we can't choose where our body fat comes from, but eventually if we keep going at it and we keep going at it and we keep going at it, we're likely to pull from that area that is stubborn. And the second aspect of this, which can kind of be a bit of a harsh reality, is that you may have to do more than one fat loss phase. You might have to do two, you might have to do three, you might even have to do four. I can't tell you and I can't predict that fully, but realistically, sometimes one phase is just not enough. And in reality, it can be quite a positive if you look at it in the right way. A lot of us don't want to get super gaunt and lean in other areas because of, our arms, for example, are already lean enough, and we still want to get that stomach fat off, but really don't want to lose much fat elsewhere. If we stop dieting, go for a strategic reverse, we sustain for a little while, we maybe build a little bit of muscle, and we come into round two, our stubborn area isn't going to have much more fat than it had before. And then we've got a little bit more muscle that beefs up our arms, which adds a little bit of definition or size to our legs that we didn't have before. So we go through that dieting process again, we start chipping away at already the lower area, the area that was a little bit more stubborn, without kind of too much expense to other areas of our body, because we've got muscle to fill ourselves out now. And then you keep chipping away, you're already in a better place with the body fat that you begun with, and then you get a little bit deeper into getting rid of that stubborn body fat, and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. That's definitely been my experience. I found that each time that I've dieted, I've gotten just that little bit leaner, and that can be a really good way to go. And I think that sometimes we get stuck in the idea of thinking this one diet is going to get me to the physique of my dreams. And the harsh reality is that you're probably not going to achieve your dream physique with one fat loss phase. You might, and that's amazing if you do, but the reality is it might take several phases. It might take muscle building phases, fat loss phases. It might take 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. For example, myself, I think it took me about 8 years until I turned around, looked at my physique at a photo shoot, and I said, actually I'm very happy with this. And it wasn't that I was unhappy in the process, but the reality is that I was chasing a better physique, a better physique, a better physique. And it only took me 7 to 8 years later to turn around and be like, actually, that's really strong. I like the way I look. And if I thought, from my first year in the gym that I'm going to do one phase of dieting and that's in reality going to be my dream physique, I would have been a little delusional, to be completely honest. I'm very disappointed too, because it took me countless phases of muscle building and fat loss to get to where I want to be. So if you look at your journey from a bigger picture perspective and realize you don't have to lose all of the fat on your body in just one phase of dieting, then you might have better results when it comes to getting rid of that stubborn bit of body fat. So those are two key things that we don't always consider when it comes to getting rid of that final bit of body fat, which I really do believe will lead you to the results that you're after. So definitely consider them. Let me know if you've got any questions on that front as well, and I can cover those for you too. Take care, have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon.